Welcome to Magnet Marketers, our weekly live show where we break down the head, heart, and hand approach to building sustainable growth in your business. During each episode, we share actual client marketing best practice examples, strategies, and tactics that will help you generate real results. Our belief? A magnet always works better than being a bullhorn to attract, retain, and build your brand. Ready to dive into this week's Relationship Marketing Training Tuesday? Well, let's get started. Here's your host, Mike Gingerich and Jessika Phillips. All right, yay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Training Tuesday Live. We're Magnet Marketers, where our goal is always to become a magnet with your marketing versus being a bullhorn. And today, we're here for a special treat. I know I say that every week, but it really is a special treat every week. We're going to be talking about how you can leverage market research to connect with your ideal audience, the people you want to be having a conversation with. You want to connect with them, and ultimately, it'll help you get to your ROI a lot faster. Let's just be honest. But before we dive into all the goodies with Craig, our good friend Craig, and get to know him a little bit more, if we've not met before, hello, my name is Jessika Phillips with Now Marketing Group and the Relationship Marketing System. My personal mission is to help you love more, give more, and be more through the art of authentic relating. And my awesome co-host, he's Mike Gingerich, and he's got a new bio. So I am so excited to read this out loud here today. But Mike lives to add value to people's lives in uncommon ways, such as running a marathon in Iraq to raise funds to rebuild homes for dispatch Iraqis. He loves to explore through travel, is a fitness nerd, and tries to leave lots of smiles behind. And he does just that. How's it going, Mike?
Hey, I am doing well, and super excited to be back at a week off, and super excited to be here, particularly because we got Craig with us today.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I'm going to dive in, introduce. He's been on the show with one of our roundups before, so folks may have been introduced to Craig. He also spoke at Social Media Week Lima in the past year. But for those who are new, let's dive in, give you a little bit of background on Craig. Craig Severinsen is a business consultant that helps entrepreneurs grow their businesses and reclaim their lives. How about that? He's on a personal mission to end entrepreneurial burnout and help every business owner live life to the fullest. Fun fact, he can play the ukulele like you wouldn't believe. You see it back there? There it is. Yep. Welcome, Craig.
Hey, thanks so much. I'm excited to be here. It's always great. You know, when you get on an interview, it's always fun, but it's always great to be in an interview with people who share the same values as you and really love relationship marketing and just treating people right. So I am thrilled to be here with you guys because you stand for all that good stuff. So I am really excited to be here.
Wonderful. Yeah, well, we're excited to have you. We want to dive in now with this topic. I know with like market research, sometimes people's eyes can go, "Oh yeah, that's work." And but you know, as we talked beforehand, just pre-show, that's the goal today, is to kind of break it down, show the positives of it, you know, including how you can charge more. So, right? I mean, that's what we're going to do.
100%. And I think, you know, it always helps. Yeah, I said this before to you guys right before the show, is that I've been doing this for a while. And every time I say the words market research, it's like I see the crowd's eyes just glaze over. And it's like, hey, guys, wake back up. Hold on, wait. So I think it's really important to understand that it's like building a foundation of a house, right? If you don't have the right foundation, your house falls apart. And it's the same, like if you want to raise your rates, you want to work with really great clients, you want to have huge impact in the world, you've got to start with that great foundation. And I hope that we present today a way of viewing market research that is a little bit different and a little bit more applicable, right? It's not, I think we have this idea of market research as being really complicated, something only big companies do. I want to break that down to something really accessible and also you can take right away and start applying so that you grow your business and that you make more of an impact.
I'm so glad you said that because you're right. When people say market research, sometimes your eyes do glaze over, especially in some of the creatives. But I love the analogy that you said, it's building that foundation, because you're right. If you're targeting the wrong people with the wrong message at the wrong time and place, what are we doing, right? Yeah. Time, our most valuable asset, we need to maximize it. So a lot of times we have to stop, pause, think what we are going to be doing before we put a message out. Like you were saying at the very beginning, relationships, you know, in relationship marketing, that's really what it's about, is connecting with the right people. The key is like, where do you get started with that foundation? So how do you approach this when you're working with your clients?
Well, so I think the first thing is to understand that it doesn't have to be complicated. Like if you just commit, first off, this is not complicated. Like commit to that idea and keep it simple. That's step number one. But step number two is when we talk about doing market research, I don't want you to think about, oh, I'm going to like go find an organization that does this, and I'm going to pay them $1 million, and they're going to canvas the whole country, right? Like that's not what we want to do. We want to leverage actually your most underutilized resource, which is your current clients. So the people who have taken out their wallet, they've thrown their credit cards at your face, they've paid you. What are they thinking, right? And how are they responding to your services? And having both an informal and formal way of including them in the conversation so that you can, build your business around those mega fans, right? And it comes really, when done right, it's just having authentic conversations with the people who you care about the most and who care about your business the most, right? Having real conversations with them and using that information to, I'm going to steal from your social media week theme, co-create your experience with them, right? Your content, your offer, co-create all that stuff with them so that your business grows in a mutually beneficial way.
I mean, I love that. I love what you did make it simple there, because you took it down from, this research concept that seems like, okay, data overwhelmed, spreadsheets everywhere, whatever, or surveys. And then you made it down to conversation with the people who like you the most, who are already working with you.
Intentional conversations too,
Yeah.
is what it sounds like, right? Like you're intentionally asking them, what do you like, right? What makes you want to do business with us? And I love like one of the things that we've done even at now is like when we look at what reviews are even being posted online by clients and what people are saying, but listening to that, like you said, authentically, connecting and having a conversation around why somebody's doing business with you and why they love you, and listening, that can really then help you shape how you approach marketing your business in a new way. So walk me through a little bit on how this is put into practice. So I'm having a conversation, Craig, let's say you and I, we connect on relationship marketing. We love it. It's both our jams. Like, so we nerd out on it. Like, how would you use the information from this conversation to then give you that research that you're needing to change your business?
So I think, first of all, understanding that it is a conversation and that the conversation goes two ways, right? So I think an example, I'm at home today. I work from home. My kid is upstairs. He's not in school yet. He's running around like crazy, bored out of his mind. And I let's use him as an example, right? So I could go to him and I could say, hey, you're bugging me, because he has been all day. He's been down in my space. It's like, hey, what do you want to do? Like, what can we do so that you're not like, so around in my area? And listen to what he wants to do and go with that. Now, if he, being a kid, he's probably going to say something like, hey, I want to watch TV, or I want to do this or that. I know that watching TV all day is not that great for him, though. So I can balance that as being the parent who knows what's best for him to say, okay, you want to watch TV? Awesome. Why don't we first eat a snack? Why don't we first do a puzzle? Or why don't we watch TV and then go to the park, right? Like I can interject those things I know he needs in with the things that he wants. So I think, first of all, understanding that this is a conversation that goes two ways. You want to know what your clients want, but you also need to be the expert and include what they need, right? So understanding that this conversation goes both ways. We're not just, right now, most entrepreneurs are just taking all the control for themselves and guessing at what their clients want. And then they get into this and they say, okay, well, the client said this, so let's just do that. Well, okay, no, it's somewhere in the middle. We got to find both. So let's do that first. And then number two, like, let's really hone in onto who our ideal clients are. Yeah. So let's do this in the chat, guys. George says you're speaking my dad language. Yeah,
there we go.
Awesome. That resonates with me. Thanks. I'm so glad, George. So let's do this in the chat. I'm going to describe two clients, and you tell me which one is the better client. Okay. So client number one pays you a ton of money. They're your top paying client, but you hate working with them. Every time the phone rings, you don't want to answer it. You see the email come in, your heart drops into your stomach. Like, you don't like working with them, but they pay you super, super well. Client number two, they pay you peanuts. They practically pay you nothing, but man, you love them. You love the projects. You love everything about them. Which one is the better client? George is saying two. Jessica says two. Mike, do you have an opinion?
Hands down. Hands down. Yeah, absolutely.
Does anybody say one?
I haven't got one yet, unless you can have a conversation with one and turn around. But yeah,
One goes back to your entrepreneurial burnout word, man.
yeah,
Yeah, for real.
there's
That's
not enough
true.
money in the world for that.
No, not to
So
get.
I love this community is all saying too. When I do this, like in when I speak and do this activity with people, it's almost always 50-50.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
It's almost always
Ooh.
50-50. And the reason why is because what makes a good client depends on the criteria,
Mhm.
right? So obviously to this community, the criteria of loving to work with your clients is more important than money,
Mhm.
right? So, but to other people, that might not be the case. So what we need to do is get really, really clear for you as to what makes a good client. And the best way that I know how to do that is to actually go and get your client roster, go print it off or put it into a spreadsheet, write the criteria across the top and start giving them points, right? Like
Mhm.
I just do -1, 0, or 1, right?
Mhm.
Here's my criteria. Do they score negative, positive, or neutral? And just do that for like 5 or 6 different criteria. And suddenly you'll have a list of, oh my goodness, I have this client roster. Now I know that I love
Mhm.
these people. I don't like these people. And these guys are kind of in the middle. And that'll really help you hone in into who your target audience is and what you like and don't like about them.
Yeah. I love that
Yeah.
you score a negative too, because there's a such thing as, like, I call it culture credit, culture debt, but culture debt, right? Like, where you are taking on this, and Jacqueline, said the same thing. We did this early on. That was always like my biggest thing when I first started the company and now marketing group. I was like, oh, we'll be able to, make them happy, at the end of the day when I first started, and realized very quickly, no, that's not going to happen. That you have to know who you're going to work with well, and you want to find more of those people, because happy clients working with happy team members produce a lot better results at the end of the day. And like you said, the word of mouth that's going to grow those super fans, it's going to
Mm.
attract more of the like-minded people, like what you see here in this chat. Like attracts like, right?
Right.
But when you are focused in on some of the negative people and you take them on, it not only doesn't make you happy, but it diminishes the culture credit as well as the team energy and the
Yeah.
morale of working. It is definitely a negative at the end of the day.
Yeah, totally. And there's such a thing. I've counseled many clients who say, "Hey, I love, this. There's a lot of money this way, but my passion isn't quite aligned with it." And I'm always like, "Don't chase the money, because even if financially on paper it makes sense, guess what? If you don't have the passion behind it to drive it, it's not gonna work. So you've gotta, some people say follow your passion, some people say follow your money. It's actually both. You got to follow that spot where the money and the passion cross. And when you find that, that's where you start leaning in a little bit heavier.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Now, okay. So you've used in different settings here the Goldilocks term. Do you want to dive into that and
Yeah. So the Goldilocks zone of growth is what I call it, and I actually am in the process of writing a book
there we
with
go.
that same title. So look forward to that. But the idea actually comes from, it is like Goldilocks and Three Bears, but actually is a term that comes from NASA, and the term describes that space or distance from a star where the temperature is not too hot, not too cold, but just right for growth, right? Or for
Ah,
life. And so in business, it's the same way. We got to find that spot that's not too hot, not too cold, so that you can explode in your growth. And the fastest way to do that is to really lean into this market research process we just talked about. So you identify who your top clients are, you get them on the phone, you start interviewing them, and find out what are the pieces that they're buying, basically, and then use that to just start attracting the same types of people. Kind of like what Jess was saying, like attracts like, right? If you can identify, oh my goodness, here's my top 20% of clients. I ranked them. These are the people I love. Now, how do I replicate that? What offer are they buying? What content are they leaning into? What sort of ROI are they looking for? Where do they hang out? Right? All that stuff you can start pulling from them, and then go start replicating those clients on your roster. So now your business starts growing with people that you love, that are getting great results, and that feel really good to work with.
I was just gonna ask, I love that. So do you recommend then, when you find out and you do this research, because you were also saying you find out the ones you're not working well with, like,
Yeah.
do you continue to work with them, or what do you find is that balance once you get this eye-opening kind of like score sheet, if you will, or does it depend on the business? Like what's your recommendation?
Yeah, well, I mean, everything is individual, right? It always depends on the business, but as a general rule of thumb, I like to lean into a principle of Feng Shui, and I always laugh when I use this example because I know nothing about Feng Shui except for one thing. So this is the one thing I know about Feng Shui, and that is that if you want something new in the room, you have to first remove the old stuff. So you have to make way for the new thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you want better clients, you need to clean house. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you fire all of your clients and now we've got an empty house and now all the new clients can come in, because you still have bills to pay, right? That could be first we get some new clients and then we get rid of some of the bottom clients, and then we get some more clients, then we get rid of some of the other. Like, you can do this incrementally in steps.
Okay.
And something I like to say is add before you take away. If possible, get the new clients first and then start saying goodbye to your older clients. But let's be honest, if you've got a client that's just a nightmare client, even if they're your highest paying client, they could be taking, you got to really say, are they taking my energy? Are they taking my focus?
Negative.
My bandwidth?
Yeah.
Because they could.
If they are, you got to say goodbye. You got to take that leap and you got to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Amen. Because it shifts the energy to one. It's just like spring cleaning, right? If we're going to stick with that analogy, you feel good, right? And then it feels better in your home. You get more stuff done. You're more productive. The same thing's true with the business, especially when you're like, I love that you give the negative scores. It sounds bad, but you know what I mean? Like that because it visually shows how much of a drain something could be, a relationship could be, if it's not aligned. And so even if you are taking that relationship out first, you could see that actually you still are a little bit ahead. You still have added at the end of the day. And when the energy shifts, I really think then that does draw in the right people. It never fails. I'm working with clients or coaching clients, and we start talking about them getting aligned and who they really want to work with and more aligned with themselves, that the things just start coming in because now they're attracting it, right? Because they've had some clarity around, here's who I want to work with, here's who I am, here's how I'm going to show up. So now people get it.
100%. And I even went through this myself. This is now maybe about 10 years ago. My business had one big client. I had the one big client that, like, all the billing was that one client was the one, but it wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And it was with a very difficult client. And I remember it was time for the contract to be renewed. And they were talking about an offer that was even further away from what I wanted. And I remember talking to my wife, and I'm like, I think I got to do it. And I'm so grateful for her, because she said, it's time to say goodbye. Like, we might not pay the bills next month, or it might be whatever, but it's time to say goodbye to them. And I did. And it was hard in the moment when you're like, all my money is in this client and you're going to say goodbye. It is hard, but I got to tell you, I said goodbye. And then that next month, I got like 10 new clients doing what I wanted to do. Like, it was a huge increase. Again, it's because I made the space for it. Now, that's not,
I like that.
I hate to like give blanket statements, and I would hate for someone to just like, yeah, I'm so fed up, I'm going to go fire somebody because they heard me say this, right? Like, take your time, take a breath, make sure it's the right thing. But like, honestly, you've got to know if they're taking too much energy from you and they're not a good fit, they're keeping your business stuck.
Because sometimes it's just the conversation, like you said at the beginning. Sometimes it's just going back and having a conversation. We've had that before, so definitely start there. So I love that. You're having the conversations, you're really authentically relating, you find out what do they really need, want, what that aligns with what you do as the expert, come out with, a plan. You start scoring the clients potentially that you have now. Now, what's the next step in this process?
Yeah, so I would say kind of systemizing it into your business, so that's something that continually happens moving forward. So there are two things that I strongly recommend for everybody, and I do these myself as well. So the first is a yearly it's kind of like an audit, right? I call it the focused view analysis. So when you've got when you know who your top clients are, you do that every year. You rank them again. Every year you go back and you rank them. And every year you get on, you go and you have this kind of like systemized, structured, we're going to interview them. We're going to draw a bunch of information out from them. You do that with your top 20% of clients. But then you also have this unstructured format of engaging with your market and your audience through social media and through content. So doing stuff like this show, right? Or I do a podcast, I do YouTube, or if you do a blog, right? too many times we're just sitting there yelling out into the void. We're just putting content out and we're not really thinking, hey, is anybody interacting with this? Switch that mindset so that your content is a conversation starter and gets information for you in real time on what your audience is thinking. You know, a good example is when COVID hit, you know, everyone was kind of freaking out. And I did a lot of posts like, hey, whatever's everybody thinking, what's going on? My audience told me, hey, they didn't say these words, but like, hey, we're scared. We don't know what to do. And so then I put on a 4-day summit of experts saying, hey, this is what we should be doing right now. And so it's like you can, in real time, measure what's going on with your audience. And if it makes sense, respond to it so that you've got that engagement. You can, again, co-create the experience of what's it like to be in the same ecosystem with you.
That is so smart. Honestly, we did, that saved a business around here. So it was a restaurant actually, and they were listening, right? We were social listening and found out that, you know, people couldn't at the supermarkets here locally, they were having a hard time finding like meats and stuff on the shelf. So the restaurants closed during COVID time and they are like, hey, we have food though, like let's sell wholesale, like not, you know, cooked for you here as you're eating at the restaurant, but grocery style, right? Like, and sell it to you. And that's what they did. And they ended up having better months because they were listening and they were able to then co-create with their community, like you said, in that way. And that definitely helps you to align the, you know, the perfect example, the goals with somebody's challenges and needs at the time.
That's a really cool story. And I think that, you know, COVID's something that we can point to a lot and say, hey, because this is a huge thing. So we can point to it a lot and make a lot of examples from it. But like, let's also put this into perspective of like just normal everyday activity. If you know you've got something coming, I do this all the time. I do events every month. So I do webinars and live trainings every month. If you know what's coming up, you can start doing content in advance to get people's ideas about what's going on. So if I'm doing a sales training, I might ask questions like, hey, who gets on Zoom for sales and who uses old school phone calls and why? You know, like questions that are like engagement based, but give me information around what I know is coming up so that I can tailor my content and I can tailor my messaging to better serve my audience. Just by like, again, we're just engaging, we're just talking, but instead of just throwing out content for the sake of having content, it's intentionally having conversations. I don't know how many, you know, raise your hand if you've seen this. Every once in a while you see like everyone starts copying and pasting the same thing on Facebook, right? Or LinkedIn. Right now it's somebody posted it and it was super funny, and now I've seen it a million times. It's like, oh, my loan just went through, we're about to close on a tank of gas next week, right?
Yeah.
And now I've seen that same post copy and pasted about 100 times. Yeah, that gets engagement, but why do you want that engagement? Why are people engaging with that? That doesn't do anything for your brand. Versus if you can, you know, even if you feel that way, if you can take that and put it in your own words and actually engage your audience in a conversation, that can make the difference to sales and no sales, growth and no growth.
Amen to that. I love that example because you're right. Because then you can use those examples in your presentation, or if you're, you know, somebody that's selling a product, you know, your business to consumer, and you're selling a product like one of the water bottle companies that we work with, they use it to decide what they were going to design then on the water bottles, because they're like, hey, what's your kids looking for, you know, and staying in the trends and what, you know, they're looking to put in the Easter baskets, right? Because now you're listening and being able to get your community involved, and who's going to be more willing to show up, whether somebody to engage, whether if it's the tank of gas thing, like the post that was just copy and paste, or if you're using a real example, if Craig is putting that into his post, a real example that somebody gave him from their story of, you know, whatever you're asking, how they're using Zoom or whatever, or a phone call, you know, and you're using their example in your content, people are going to engage with that. And they love seeing things that they've contributed to being used, right? Like it's a sense of belonging together.
Yeah. And I love what you just said too, because if we put, you know, community and belonging are really nice and we want that, but also, you know, take that a step further to what is the business like result of that. It's retention. It's keeping people around longer. So it's like, you know, the water bottle, great example. Again, if someone helps you co-create that water bottle with you, it's in their Easter basket. How likely are they to be a repeat customer? How likely are they, even if it's not even until next year, next Easter, what are they going to be doing? They're going to be looking again for your water bottle, right? Like it creates a relationship that is reciprocal and retains them longer.
Amen. Lisa says, so many great nuggets. He is full of it. Worth like just wisdom and just great ideas, and the way that you break it down. I love that. It doesn't make us get freaked out about market research anymore. By the way, if you're enjoying this, type the word recap in the comments here. Recap. We'll make sure that you get the recap of today's show, a link to get connected with Craig, all of his contact information, and all the things right into your inbox very easily. So just type the word recap and you'll be greeted with a way of getting signed up. And we'll have that blog published out tomorrow. So Craig, what if somebody's listening to this and they're like, oh, I need to get aligned, I'm finding myself not with maybe my ideal clients, or I just want to get better connected so I know what to ask and how to have this conversation. Like, what is your number one tip of just getting started? Where does somebody just hit the ground running?
So, I mean, if you well, so first of all, understand that when you start doing this, it will put everything else on easy mode. Okay. So when you start engaging people in conversations, well, here's an example. So I yesterday, a friend of mine reached out to me and said, hey, Craig, I know you do YouTube. He helps me with my podcast. And he's like, I had some ideas for YouTube. I want to try these videos. Can we just get on, record some content? And I'm just going to do this for you so I can test it out. I was like, yeah, sure. Let's do it. We got on the phone and he's like, okay, what topics do you want to talk about? And it's like, we hadn't prepped for that. Here's the question. And I think most people would just go, I don't know, let's do this. Instead, I was able to open up my documents and say, okay, here's what my audience cares about. Here's what they look at me for expertise. How about we choose one of these things? So it makes everything else go on easy mode, right?
Beautiful.
Like, I'm not sure what I'm offering. Like, I'm not sure what they want. Okay, when you do this stuff, guess what? It all gets narrowed in. It all gets focused. You can start really systemizing your stuff, hiring team, and really growing beyond just you. So the benefits of doing this really, really big. Now, where do I start? If you're just like, I just want to get started, think about who's your best client and take them to lunch. Take them to lunch and just have a real honest conversation and ask them things like, what's the best thing of working with me? What do you hate about people in my industry? Right? Like, not you. If you ask them, like, what do you hate about me or my service? They probably won't answer you because they're looking right at you, right? And they like you. But if you say, hey, what do you not like about my industry or about other people that provide a similar service as me? Then they're going to give you real answers that you can take and run. Yeah. You ask them things like, what are you working on? What are your goals? How could I better support you in reaching those goals? Start with one person and that will get you on the right track.
Amen. That's so good. And when you're taking on new clients, I highly recommend like asking discovery questions too, like then, right? So if you want to take them on or not. And I know you do this, Craig. I know you do this, Mike, as well, but something to really think of, like, to get started with your current, definitely. And then new coming in, take time at the beginning to ask the right questions. So you're not just handing a proposal and getting started and then realizing 10 months down the line that it's not a good fit. But those questions definitely helps to, one, know if you want to work with them, two, then how to continue supporting them as well. But I love that.
To build on that, it's a really cool activity is to say, what do my clients already need to have in place in order to be successful?
Yes.
Asking yourself that question, or even like looking at your current client roster and say, the most successful people, what did they have in place already? And then making those standards for new clients, right? Like, I only work with you if you've got this stuff ready. It's really, there's all these sayings we have in business that we don't always do, right? Like, fire your best clients or fire your worst clients, keep your best, which we already kind of talked about, right? Like, how do you do that when 1 and 2 are like, one pays me and one doesn't pay me, but I hate one and love the other one? Who's the best? We talked about that. The criteria matters. And I totally forgot where I was going with this. What was I talking about right before this?
You were saying like, just seeing what the successful ones have and make that your criteria, for us, it's like, if they don't have a good culture, I don't want to make
exactly. Like it's easy for us to say that the sales conversation is two-way interview, but if you don't know what makes a good client or what they need to
Yeah.
have in place.
So good.
There's no standard. So it's not
Right.
it's not a two-way. It's like you begging, please come work with me. But if you've got standards, then suddenly there's a line in the sand. It's if you meet that standard, it makes sense. So let's just sign up and go. If you don't meet the standard, then guess what? It doesn't make sense. Here's some other resources. Thanks for reminding me, Jessika, because I told you.
No, you're good. I'm
Yeah.
I'm right there because you're right. It is a two-way. You want to tell them about you too, and let them know, like, here's how I best work, right? Like, so you both are choosing each other because then you'll stick together. And
Yeah.
Lisa, I cannot wait to see you at Social Media Marketing World next week. That's where I will be next week. Social Media Marketing World 22. If you're there, make sure to connect. But I want you guys, 30 minutes goes by way too fast here.
Yes.
And Craig, we got to continue this on again and have you back for sure. But until then, sounds like people really want to connect and even find out more. What's the best place that they can find you online right now?
So this is a service that I do for my clients. I also do coaching and done-for-you services on both these things. So whether you're in either of those categories, you want someone to help you do it or you want someone to just do it for you, I've got resources for you. And LinkedIn is a great place to connect with me. I just did a webinar explaining this whole process. So that would be a great place to start. So find me on LinkedIn, Craig Severinsen, and I'll shoot you the replay to that webinar. You can also, I have a podcast, Built to Scale. Built to Scale. So it's builttoscalehq.com.
We'll make sure to have both of those links in the recap here. So type the word recap if you want that into your inbox. It'll be published tomorrow afternoon. Craig, you are awesome. Always love having this conversation. No, we nerd out. We see things the same way with as regards to relationship marketing. So thank you so much for your time and being willing to share with us here.
Yes. And next time we may have to bring out the ukulele. I mean, just for a little bit. Okay.
I've done it before. Don't tip me. I'll do it.
Well, I do. I mean, you can just play us out if you want.
You want to?
Yeah, for sure.
I won't sing. I'll just play softly while you.
In with us this week. There we go. We'll sing it out. Thanks for joining us on Magnet Marketers. We'll be back here in 2 weeks, actually. Until then, listen to these sweet beats by Craig. So I love it. Thanks, everyone. Yeah. I'm going to be a slow ending button.